In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the rear coil springs on this Honda Civic. They go between the body of the vehicle and the lower control arm, so let's get started. Use a 19mm socket to remove all 5 lug nuts and then remove the wheel. Now with the wheel off, let's support the knuckle. I'm using a pull jack because I'm on a lift. You can use a floor jack if you're on the ground. Just put a little bit of pressure on it. With a 14mm socket, disconnect the lower shock mounting bolt. Also with a 14mm socket, disconnect the upper control arm bolt. With a 14mm as well, let's disconnect the trailing arm mounting bolts off of the body. That's going to drop down a little bit. On this brake line bracket, there are 2 things to disconnect. One is going to be the ABS sensor retainer. Squeeze those tabs in and unhook it. And then a 12mm bolt right here that holds the brake line and brake hose attached to the knuckle. Pop this off to give it a little bit more slack. You can bend the brake line a tiny bit, not too much, but it can flex a little. Lower your support. Slowly, of course. Pay attention to the brake line, ABS wire, all that. Take a pry bar and pry the spring out of its spot. And there it is. Now we do have to remove this top mounting support here off the spring. Take the spring, recycle it, we'll reuse this piece. Take the new spring and put the top mount back on it. Bring it in towards the frame. Push the arm back down. Okay, there we go. That's in. Now bring the knuckle back up. Cleaned up my bolts, put a little bit of anti-seize on the shank of the bolt and some thread locker on the end of the threads. Start those in. The torque on these is 81 foot-pounds. Now let's put this brake line back. It's got a little dowel that it has to line up with. And then of course the bolt. And tighten it up. Make that nice and snug. About 1/8 of a turn after it bottoms out is plenty. Get the ABS sensor clipped in on the top of this bracket. Mine's kind of broken, so what I'm going to do is stick a wire tie through here and just wire tie it to the bracket. Get the shock bolt in, and you can start it, but don't tighten it yet. We're going to have to tighten it up at right height. Speaking of right height, use your support, whether it's a floor jack or a pull jack, to bring the knuckle up and join the upper control arm with the top of the knuckle. And put the bolt in from rear to front. Start threading it on. Don't go in all the way though. Raise this up a little more. This is pretty much right height, so let's snug everything up. The torque on this upper control arm bolt is 80 foot-pounds. All right, that's torqued right there. Now, just as a tip, if you need to, you have a little bolt up here and you can remove the mounting nut so that as you drive this through, you can actually punch it through all the way, then put the mounting nut on as you spin the bolt. And for the lower shock bolt, if you have a Civic Si, it's 51 foot-pounds. Any other trim gets 43 foot-pounds on this lower shock bolt. Now lower your support. Let's get the wheel back on. Reinstall all 5 lug nuts, bottom them out in a cross pattern, and also in a cross pattern, torque them to 79 foot-pounds. Once again, 79 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. Double check them. There you have it, job is done.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.